A very good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you present here. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us as we embark on this exciting journey together. I am CA Kavya Shah, an auditor by profession, a host by heart with an inquisitive mind to learn and attend new things. And I am honored to be your host for this session. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a progress, and working together is a success. And that's what we call a teamwork. Firstly, I would like to welcome you all to the club. Have a huge round of applause for you all. Okay, so I remember when I became a CA, we all were confused as to how to kickstart our career. Don't you think proper planning and starting your career in the right direction is very much important in shaping an individual's life? And for that, knowledge of all the fields is very mandatory. I have heard many cases कि भाई सीए तो फ्लाइंग कलर्स से बन गया लेकिन आगे क्या करना वो तो सोचा ही नहीं. And that's what today's mentorship session is all about. In today's meet, you will meet all the personalities from different fields like accounting and automation, professional fields, banking field as well as the pharma field. Our agenda for today is packed with eminent professionals sharing their perspective and experience in their respective field. So, before we delve into the heart of this induction meet, I'd like to take a moment to introduce and express my gratitude to our special speaker over here. So, we have with us CA Sudesh Jain, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Global Capability Center in Adani Group, who is a qualified chartered accountant with an experience of over 20 years and has been leading Finance and Accounts Capability Center, serving diverse business verticals comprising power generation, transmission, distribution, solar, manufacturing, data center, airports, ports and logistics, and much more. So, he has been superheading the process and technology-led strategic initiatives across finance functions and processes. Mr. Sudesh is also a certified Lean Sigma Black Belt and a certified RPA professional. Your enriching knowledge session will make this event truly extraordinary, sir. So may I request Mr. Sudesh Jain to share his insights and experience in automation and finance field. Thank you, sir.
think, Thank you, Kavya, for introducing me. She did a little bit complex introduction for me by using lots of jargons in my introduction. But just to tell you in a simple word, I am also a chartered accountant like you. The only difference is that I got qualified 20 years back in the same cycle, May 2004. So since last 20 years, what I'm doing is I'm mentoring chartered accountants only. So I had a department in Adani Group, which is called ABEX, Adani Business Excellence Center, which is responsible for accounting and finance processes for the entire Adani Group. So most of the chartered accountants which we hire in Adani Group are part of my team only. In last campus, we had around 100 chartered accountants from the institute. And all of them go through a mentorship session with us for 2 years. And then they are getting placed into various businesses of Adani Group. So rather than talking today how to give interview, what to give interview, how to wear in interview, all of those things are, I think you guys would have gone through yesterday as well, and today morning also in the previous session I saw the speaker talking about that. What I want to talk to you today in next 20 minutes is a very important topic these days, which is technology. We are not a traditional chartered accountants nowadays, in which we do debit and credit, manual tax filing, manual calculation, manual reconciliation. All of these things are being taken over by technology these days. When you guys will appear for interviews and when you clear interviews, you go for jobs, you will realize that whatever you have learned in the studies is no more relevant if you guys are in corporate specifically. Because the application of accounting standards, uh, the implication of accounting entries, all of these things are taken care by systems, by tools, by technologies. What is important for us? It is important for us to understand these tools and technologies, how they are changing the world, how they are changing the profession. 20 years back when I did qualified as a chartered accountant, I used to do auditing in the Lal Bahis. ध्यान है आप न्यू क्लॉथ मार्केट में कुछ लोगों ने यहाँ पे ऑडिट किया है राइट सो न्यू क्लॉथ मार्केट में जब आप जाते हो तो लाल खाता भाई आज भी शायद होती होगी वो खोलते हैं लिखते हैं टोटल मारते हैं नेक्स्ट पेज में कैरी फॉरवर्ड करते हैं सो दैट वाज द एरा then we moved to tally and all of those things then SAP ERP now SAP ERP is also like behind when it comes to technology the world has moved far forward when it comes to technology and that is what I want to talk to you guys today and rather than using so many PowerPoint slides basically because that would be a theoretical discussion I want you guys to talk about technology your understanding of technology your expectation from this session of next 20 minutes so that we specifically discuss those aspects only. Okay? So anybody want to take a shot? What is your expectation from this session? Quickly. Anybody want to say, क्या सोच रहे हो, क्या जानना चाहते हो next 20 minutes में? Yeah, please. Mic, do we have one more mic?
Sir, as a chartered accountant, we are now more worried about how AI will replace our task.
Okay. Then, so that is one aspect which we will touch for sure. Any other expectation? Any other question, curiosity? Do everybody know? Yeah. You can use the mic, please. Yeah.
Sir, hello. Sir, with fast-moving technology, how will future look like?
How does the future look like?
Yeah, future of CAs, future
I
of
think same question
accountancy.
asked in a different words, how the AI is going to impact our life, our jobs. We will talk about that quickly, but just to tell you, 40 years back, 35 years back when ATM machine came up, the same question used to come into the mind of cashiers as well, who used to sit in the bank, that how these ATMs are going to take over their job. But nothing happened, it only helped them to do their job better. And same will happen with these technologies as well. AI is one thing, but there are lots of other technology which are coming, generative AI, which is on top of AI nowadays. Then the version 5 of ChatGPT, which is coming up, blockchain that is there in the market. All of these technologies are going to help us perform our job better rather than taking over our job, So that is the short answer, but we'll talk about that quickly. So how do I change? Do we have a slider? Is this not linked with this? So, technology in accounting processes, okay? So first of all, before we talk about technology, we need to understand what kind of processes are there in accounting, How do we divide the entire accounts and finance domain into various processes, okay? So quickly, I'll take you through that in one slide, and then we'll talk about technology. Yeah, just move forward one more slide. You can do it from there as well. I don't have so many slides, so just use the system. Yeah. So broadly, when you go into any industry or any corporate, you will see the overall finance and accounting gambit is divided into these 7 broad areas of the processes. All of you guys who are going to join any of the corporate are going to be placed in one of these 7 departments. Okay. So just to talk about these 7 departments, one is accounts payable, which is the first and foremost accounts payable and accounts receivable, the 2 transactional processes. Accounts payable is all your, suppliers, basically all your purchases. So booking of all the purchases, the liability booking is basically accounts payable process. And then accounts receivable is all your sales, the entire sales cycle. We call it order to cash. So these are the two basic processes which are 80% of the transaction in accounts. If you see the balance sheet of the P&L account, either the 80% transactions are into purchase or in the sales, and remaining all are asset and other liabilities basically. So these are the two main and most important processes which are there in the domain of finance. And then it comes to treasury management. On top of that, you take the money which you make out of businesses, either you invest them into the products, or to run the business you take loans. So all of those accounting and dealing with bankers and everything else is come part of the treasury management basically when it comes to corporate accounting processes. And the fourth process is taxation, both direct and indirect. You all guys would be familiar very much about these processes. There's nothing to talk much about that. Fifth one is record to report, which is basically nothing but the annual account closure or quarterly account closure, making balance sheet, making P&L account, getting the statutory audit done, getting the cost audit done. All of those things are called record to report. Then the fifth one is financial planning and analysis, FP&A, which is basically your budgeting, the annual operating model preparation for the businesses, and then month on month, quarter on quarter monitoring of budgets versus actual expenses. You make a budget, say for example, 200 crore revenue, but where are you in terms of the budget, in terms of actual every month? So review of that and making annual budget is called FP&A, financial planning and analysis. Lot of chartered accountants are working in the three domains which I mentioned: taxation, record to report, and financial planning and analysis. The treasury part is mainly MBAs in the industry or CFAs, but there are chartered accountants as well in the industry. But this domain is predominantly being managed by the MBAs and CFAs. Accounts payable and accounts receivable are mostly non-qualified. The people who have done either CA Inter or graduates with good marks, they are doing the transactional entry, and then on top of that, there are chartered accountants sitting. And the last one is basically a little bit high-end and more of a corporate finance kind of activity, which is M&A. Merger and acquisition related processes. Adani Group, you might have heard, we have acquired Ambuja Cement, ACC Cement, Mumbai Airport, electricity distribution business, so many other businesses. So there are a dedicated team to handle M&A as an activity as well, in which it starts from the looking for opportunities which are available in the market for M&A, doing due diligence, getting into the transaction, executing the transaction, and then once the transaction is executed, integration of that company into the larger group, basically, And this is very important, For example, the ACC Ambuja, which I mentioned, we acquired last year a $10 billion US company. When we were integrating them into the Adani systems, the SAP maturity of ACC Ambuja, the process maturity of ACC Ambuja was very different. It took us 1 year to move the entire company into the Adani ecosystem. So this M&A process, post-transaction, becomes very important from a technology perspective. And we are talking technology today, hence I'm touching only that part, not touching how the M&A happens and all of those things. Yeah. This slide is important from a technology perspective. I just wanted to give you flavor of technology in finance and accounting domains. There are 3 stages of implementation of technology when it comes to finance and accounts. First is the basic ERP, core ERP. You might have done audit in SAP environment for some of the client, or in Tally environment, or in Oracle environment, or in Microsoft Dynamic environment. All of those transaction systems in which the transaction goes as an entry is called core ERP systems. 10 years back, implementation of SAP used to be considered as an implementation of technology. We are implementing technology in accounting. Nowadays, this is basic. I mean, you can't work without SAP. That is the core system of recording of transaction. Okay? So that is not an implementation of technology, but this is the first stage of technology. So when you will go into the corporates or for interviews, people will ask you these kind of questions. What is your understanding of technology? So you don't talk only about Gen AI directly, but not only talk about SAP only. You have to talk about the 3 stages, saying that it starts with the recording of the transaction, which is the core ERP. Tally is also, ERP. Most of you guys have worked on Tally for sure in your audit assignments. So Tally is also a recording system. So this becomes the first stage of technology implementation, which is the core ERP. Okay? Then it comes to the second level, which is, there are tools and technologies which are sitting on top of the core ERP, okay? For example, in our environment in Adani, we have implemented ServiceNow as one of the tool for, talking to all the users in the group. So everybody can't get into the SAP ERP and, solve their queries. They have to come through ServiceNow, which is a ticketing tool, which sits on top of that. Then, for example, Power BI as a dashboarding tool, okay, visualization tool. All of you would have heard about data analytics, data technology, data science. That is also becoming one of the profession these days. Everybody want to get into data science field, right? Because nowadays chartered accountants are not doing the transaction recording, but doing the analytics part of the thing. So that happens in the second stage, which is basically the entire creation of data lake, visualization, data query, writing data on top of ERP. So ERP is basic recording system. How do you do analytics on top of that? The second layer come on there, basically, okay? And the third is a layer which is going to become a system of experience, okay? So this is the layer which is going to take over all the manual activity which we do today. In SAP, while we do the recording, or in Dynamics, or in Tally, but somebody has to put the entry, right? Somebody has to manually enter the entry. So that piece of the activity is going to take over by the technology, which is generative AI or robotic process automation kind of technologies. So when it comes to the job, specifically for chartered accountants, most of the CAs are not doing the transaction recording work, So the threat is not on them. The threat is mainly for the jobs which are basically low level or the entry level jobs in which people are doing the transaction recording. So that recording would be taken over by the technology. In last 4 years, I have personally in my department implemented around 300 different robotic process automation code, RPAs. What these RPA does, for example, bank reconciliation, you all understand, you would have done the audit of bank reconciliation as well in the auditing. So we have around 4,000 bank accounts across the group in the company. All of these bank accounts are being reconciled on a daily basis. And all the bank accounts put together on a daily basis, how many accounting entries would be there or entries would be there in the bank statement? Can anybody make any guess for the group? Any wild guess? It is 1 lakh entries per day. All of these 1 lakh entries across 4,000 bank accounts are being reconciled on a daily basis automatically using robotic process automation, And how it works, basically there are bots which we have created. They, in the night, when we all are sleeping at home, goes into the bank server, puts our credentials, downloads the bank statement, converts into a Excel, which can be uploaded into SAP, logs into SAP, the bot itself, nobody. The bot itself logs into SAP, uploads the bank statement into SAP, does the reconciliation, and by the 9:30 a.m. in the morning, my teams come to the office, the reconciliation statement is prepared and sent to their email ID. And what now they have to do? They have to check the open items, which are not reconciled, and do the follow-up for them, So this entire 4,000 bank accounts, 1 lakh accounts entries are being reconciled by 10 people team in the entire group because we have technology implemented in Adani, And this is a very basic thing which I'm talking, RPA. Now, generative AI, which is coming into the picture, is going to do the intellectual work as well. And let me tell you an example, what it is doing. And I am doing a POC in the financial statement preparation process as well because we have 600 legal entity. 600 कंपनियां हैं अदानी ग्रुप में जिसका हमको हर महीने क्लोजिंग करना पड़ता है और बैलेंस शीट बनाना पड़ता है, हर क्वार्टर में ऑडिट होता है, ठीक है? सो अब एक तो हो गया SAP से मेरे को बैलेंस शीट P&L बन के निकल गया. अभी now for getting it audited, you have to have the entire disclosures, notes, and everything else prepared, right? And these are not simple notes because there are M&A happening, there are debt raising happening, there are other transactions happening. So all of them have to feature somewhere in the notes because of accounting standard implication. What we are doing is we are going to implement a LLM, large language model, which is the base of Gen AI as a technology. I will not talk about too much technology here, but we are going to create a LLM specifically meant for financial statement and Ind AS, So it will have an intelligence around Ind AS, and accounting standard and the company law requirements. So when I'll upload my financial statement, which are coming out of the SAP into the Gen AI tool, which has a backing of LLM of accounting standard, it will give me all the disclosures and notes automatically. So first hand, the financial statements are getting prepared automatically through ERP, the core balance sheet and P&L. On second hand, where the actual chartered accountants were working, preparing notes, implication of Indias, that is also going to be automated. So this is where the job of chartered accountants are going to get into a trouble if we don't understand how to implement the technology. So now what we will have to do as a CA, we will not have to really read the accounting standard to the core. We need to understand how to use the LLM to implement the accounting standard. So that is what is going to change for us. So when somebody will talk about technology with you guys in interviews or maybe after getting job on job, talk about technology in the 3 stages. One is the basic transaction recording. Second is bolt-on tool, which are helping us to kind of deal with the core ERP. And third is the experience tools, the tools which are going to really change the world. Blockchain, Gen AI, machine learning, all of these tools, basically. Okay? One more last slide before I close the session and ask you any further question. This is one of the use case which we have just implemented in Adani. And this talks about all the 3 stages which I just mentioned. So this is about continuous control monitoring. Okay? So we have around 2.5 million, 25 lakhs invoices, vendor invoices coming to us for accounting every year, okay, which translates into 10,000 invoices per day. So, and this is coming for 400 different sites of group, some Mundra, some Hazira, some West Bengal, this, that. So when they come to us for accounting, there is a high probability that there could be a duplicate invoice, there could be a fraudulent invoice, there could be a fraudulent, entry and all of those things, So what we do today is that we do a second checking, maker checker, and all of those things for all the invoices. That is a voluminous activity. You need an army of people. And then also you are not very sure because you can't do 10,000 invoices checking every day. Okay. So what we have done is we have used machine learning as a technology on top of Power BI and data lakes, which I just talked about. So it will take the data acquisition from SAP will happen. It will go into a data lake through a Google BigQuery. The Python codes are written to clean up the data. Then it will go into a system in which the exception would be thrown. Exception will go for a manual checking. If it is a false exception, it will go for a machine learning tool. The machine will correct the exception, saying that this is a false exception. So next time, whenever similar situation will come, it will not throw that as an exception. So automatically, the exceptions will reduce. So rather than checking 10,000 invoices on a daily basis, now we'll have to check only 500. Which will further reduce to 100 in next 6 months' time. So that is what technology is going to help us. And this has all the 3 elements. The first, which is core ERP, in which the transaction is getting recorded. Second, which is the data lake and data injection and all of those things. And third is the machine learning, which is the system of experience. So system of record, system of engagement, system of experience, all 3 are taken care in this one example. With this, I'll close my formal presentation. Anybody has any question, I'm happy to help. Yeah. See, honestly speaking, when we interview chartereds, and we took 100, as I mentioned, in last campus, your credentials in terms of number of attempts you have taken, the kind of audit you have done, all of these speaks about you when it comes to technical. We don't get into too much technical discussions. Honestly, if it comes to interview with me, the final shortlisted candidates, I only take 5 minutes with each candidate to take interview. So we really don't want too much technical knowledge because, as I mentioned, that would not be required in a real world. What we want is intent and will to learn. How much excited are you for this job? Is this a compromise job for you, or you are really excited to do something different, something great on the job? If that kind of intention is there, intent is there, will is there, then we hire the guy. Rather than looking at India's knowledge and all. Because first level screening happens basic, it should not become like you don't know anything, you've done dummy articles or something. But that is something which you will learn on the job. But your behavioral aspects I can't change, because that is something which has inculcated over last 22 years of your life, So if you don't have a will to work, you will never work, irrespective of your technical knowledge. So we give lots of importance to the behavioral aspect of the candidate rather than technical knowledge. Yeah? Any other question?
Sir, is there any reason why Adani is not participating in this campus?
So I can understand your frustration, but as a process, what we do is normally we take one break and go for another one, and there's a reason behind that. As I mentioned, they go through a proper orientation session before they go to the actual job, So the last batch which we have had, they are still going through the basics of various processes and accounting systems, and it's a 1 year training program and then 1 year on the job program in ABEX, which is in my control, before they goes back to the businesses. So their 1 year will get finished by the time the next batch will come, and then we will go for the second batch. So that is the only reason. But we are still hiring from the market. While we have not participated in the campus, because in campus we want to hire in a large quantity, but we still go out and market we are hiring fresh chartered accountants as well. So anybody who is interested, you can share your CV with Jitendra Meghnani. He can share his email ID as well with you. Any other question? So everybody is clear about technology? Huh? Clear? Yeah. Can somebody please pass on the mic on the back side? I can hear you. Please, yeah.
Yeah. So I know you're from a corporate background and your domain will be that only. But as you've seen that you used to audit the red ledger books, right? The Bahi Khatas and all. So now what we have seen a transition, those Bahi Khatas are moved out, they moved to Tally. The earlier big corporates which used to have Tally on the system, they moved to SAP and ERP. And now, as you said, that even those big corporations are moving to Gen AI and everything. So this transition, how can someone at a lower level be able to implement it in smaller organizations that at smaller scale, because these things are, you can say, not that much cost effective or cannot be implemented at medium enterprises or small enterprises. But to get on that train of transition, how can we implement these things in those small organizations?
See, there are two things. One is every technology, if it does not have a ROI, okay, which typically we call it business case, then this is just a science experiment rather than implementation of technology, So nowadays you will hear lots of people talking about implementation of Gen AI as one of the use case in their organization. All of these are science experiments. They are not really helping them to either reduce their efforts, bring efficiency, or enhance their controls. For company like us, our focus is mainly to enhance the controls rather than bringing efficiency. Efficiency is only a little bit of cost. People cost, manpower cost is like 50 crore or 100 crores of budget for me. But a control gap can translate into thousands and thousands of crores, which manually I can't handle, and hence I need technology. So coming back to your question, for any organization, whether it's small, medium, large, extra large, any technology implementation, if not helping them in terms of the business case, then don't implement. Don't get into a rat race of implementing Gen AI or ERP or anything else. If your organization requires basic Tally as a tool, and with lots of ease you are able to manage it, there's no need. But if you have army of people working in Tally, then there is 100% of business case to implement a better fancy tool, which will automate the work. If you have thousands and thousands of transactions, which can translate into control gaps, lead to frauds or payment leakages, then you have to have a tools which give you better controls, like RPA, like Gen AI. So it all boils down to the cost benefit end of the day. If it is making sense, implement, otherwise don't implement. Don't get into science experiments. Yeah? Any last question before we close? I don't want to run past the time. Great, thank you. Thanks for listening to me. All the best for your campus placements.
I would summarize what faculty conveyed in the session. Continue learning is what we need in today's era. It's like रास्ते कहाँ ख़त्म होते हैं ज़िंदगी के सफ़र में. रास्ते कहाँ ख़त्म होते हैं ज़िंदगी के सफ़र में. मंजिल तो वहाँ है जहाँ ख्वाहिशें थम जाए. So we thank you so much, sir, for giving such an insightful and knowledgeable session.